when you see the education system, it's completely self-serving. Self-serving for the administrators who are at the heads of those schools, self-serving for the politicians that are trying to redirect funding to certain schools and not to others. I mean, it's a very selfish system, and performance isn't really at the crux of it. It's agendas. And so where do we see that logic applied anywhere else? Let's talk about Russell Wilson for a second. Quarterback, Denver Broncos. He got a 5-year, $250 million contract. You know what people are asking after this year? Why is he getting paid 5 years, $250 million? They're not asking that because he did a good... They're not asking that because, oh, well, you know, he's black, so he deserves it. No, they're looking at his performance and they're saying that dude played like a 1-year, $600,000 player and we're paying him $250 million. His performance was not of somebody who gets paid that amount. And so we give the government a lot of money and they don't perform at that level.
Correct.
We give the school systems a lot of money and they don't perform at that level. And then when we tell the politicians that we don't agree with the way it's being done, whenever they tell you to call your representative and you tell your representative and then they spit in your face on the House or Senate floor, it doesn't feel too good. It doesn't feel too good. So it's very important that we look at where our money's going, education system, and we say, is what's happening here godly? And if it's not godly, then we need to say something about it. And we ultimately hope that and pray that leads to action somewhere, and that we have elected officials who are going to listen. But we've talked about education ad nauseum here. I don't think the biggest issue that we see here is education.
It's racism, I would say.
I actually don't even think it's racism.
Go for it.
The biggest issue we see here, and I want to bring up something that almost everybody has said. He said, Mr. Steve said, who is going to foot the bill of all these spending bills? Miss Nikki said, there are people who are, it's now socially acceptable to have certain mental illnesses, aka pedophilia, and it's socially acceptable. We do not need God. We can make our own decisions because we know what's right. It's not racism that they're aiming for. It's not education. It's for the children. It's for the next generation. It's for their minds and for their, because think about this. One of the biggest things we've talked about today is work ethic. You know what kids don't like to do? They don't like to work hard. That's not something that you just naturally want to do. You have to learn. That's something that I would say is a learned trait.
Agreed.
And it starts with your parents, and it starts with maybe another influential figure in your life who's like, man, you need to work harder, or things won't get done. So they're teaching you to be lazier. They're then also compromising on your sexual purity by saying that pedophiles are socially acceptable, or drag shows for children are socially acceptable. So they're targeting the sexual purity of the children. Mm-hmm. And then they're saying, well, we can pass these spending bills because we need them right now. Mm-hmm. Who the heck is paying that bill at some point?
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I'm telling you now, there's a lot of people who are in that political office that are going to die within 16 years, and I sure as heck know they're not going to be paying for that bill. So who's going to be paying for the bill?
Yeah.
It's going to be the people that are left behind. And it's going to be the children. And they're going to inherit an economic situation that is unfathomably bad.
You know, Tim Pool actually had something interesting on that, if I can just interject. And I want to get your reaction to this. Just before we start to wrap up. Tim Pool said something interesting. He said millennials and Gen Z continuously whine about Social Security being gone, about not having the same world that their parents inherited. And he said something really, I think, very thoughtful. He said, you're right. Get over it. The boomer generation inherited the most wealthy, most prosperous, most well-preserved family unit And what we see is divorce rate is doubled since they were born. What we've seen is the national debt rise incredibly with boomer politicians. And again, it's not about ageism. It's not about ageism, because everyone in this room here has done a good job. I'm not making generalization on that, but what he said was really, to your point, is you have to get a good work ethic now. You have to start to build that, because you do not have the option to do otherwise.
And you know what's up for battle? It's the hearts and minds of individuals. And they're selling you everything that you could ever want. And you do want it. Because me and you are selfish human beings who want that crap. And it's true. But you don't want what you really want. You want what you need something else. Like you have to have this need, and it's called Jesus. Amen. And if you don't have him, then nothing else is going to play out in the way that it should. Because the Bible and Christ is where we found the foundation of life. But also these other great things we've talked about: work ethic, financial stewardship, purity, marriage, all these wonderful things. But they don't want you to have it, because they want to give you what you want.
In exchange for a lie and a promise that it'll work out in the end.